afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to our Seniors Festival event. We've had quite a few Seniors Festival events this month, so this is our last event. So today we've got Matt Cohn doing Ancestry.com. So I'll pass over to him in just a minute. Sorry, I've just had to run up the stairs. Excuse me, let me get my breath back. Now, before I start, we all do a welcome to country here. This is part of the council, what's the best word for it? It's part of our council code. So, first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Bunurong people, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. So thank you for coming in for today, and I'm going to pass you over to Matt, and I'll pop back in a bit later. All right, enjoy your session. Thank you.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Matt Cohn. I don't know, I'll do a bit of standing and a bit of sitting if that's okay during the presentation. I'll go to the next slide. This is the first thing. Okay, so first, thank you for coming out today. I know it's horrible weather out there, so I appreciate your attendance. Yeah. I hope that whatever you wanted to get out of today's session, that you get that and more. I'm going to be sharing some ideas on doing family history in the digital era, which I guess is the 21st century. I'll reflect back a little bit on how it was done in the 20th century and my experiences with that. And I'll take it from there. I've been doing family history since I really got interested about 2009 or so. I had a son who was at primary school, and they had to do a project, as they do for family history, and he was asking me, what's the family tree, Dad? So at that stage, I thought, well, you know, I've got a little bit of family history. I know that Grandpa did some. My grandpa wrote this one, Tablets of Memory, the Bendigo Cohns and Their Descendants. So
that's a better start than most of us have.
That's all right. It is a much better start. That deals with my paternal line very well. He got together with my granduncle and their cousin got together, and they did a fair bit of research in a time when, well, it was really pre-internet, and they looked all over the place and gathered photos and stuff like that, and they actually won an award for this book, which was kind of nice. Wonderful. They won the Alexander Henderson Award for the Victorian Genealogical Society in 1990 for it. So, and some of its features which endeared it to the adjudicators, I imagine, were the fact that they coded all the people according to the lines of their family tree and gave them a letter and number code, which is very typical of my granduncle, who was an actuary, and my grandfather, so that kind of thing. But that's quite a helpful resource to start with. My criticisms of it would be that it's potted and doesn't give all the details I would have liked to have known, but it does give outlines, it gives you important dates, and it's a really good stepping off point, so I was lucky to have that. On my mum's side, there was Meg Chapman, who has done a couple of books. She started off with a family history called The Humanist Jew, which is about a immigrant Jewish family that came out to first Sydney and then Melbourne. And before her death, she was putting together this one, which was published slightly posthumously. They were among the makers of Melbourne, and that deals with the maternal side of my family somewhat. So I had a couple of family historians in the family who I knew of and whatever, so there was a little bit of background there for me. But there were significant issues and problems. I didn't know many details, like my grandmother's date of death, my grandmother's date of birth, and there was a whole lot of really important basic details that were missing from my family history. So I started the process of learning about those things and trying to find out about them. And I think Probably that's pretty typical of people's experience, where you've got to go to the people that you know and who are left and who are around and try and gather up some details before you get back into the records and start doing that kind of thing. So I guess today I want to get to know a little bit about you and what you want to do. That's just a bit about me. I'm a professional music teacher. I teach at Mentoring Grammar. I'm now a qualified librarian. I'm graduating on Monday from my librarian's course, so I'll be donning the diploma hat and graduating. I'm an amateur genealogist and family historian, and I've learned by getting out there and doing it and trying to be creative, as you'll see. Yeah, please. Okay, so next. So, why present this? Well, I thought
Just introduction.
it might be helpful to present some ideas, and I've done some interesting things, I guess, that show kind of stepping out in different areas, and also thought about some areas, and hopefully there'll be some inspiration. So I'm aiming to generate some inspiration ideas, maybe articulate some directions in the digital age, where things seem to be going from my perspective, not only as a librarian, but as having started to do some of these things with computer animation and all that kind of thing. For developing a family history connected to the development of information technology and the information age. Of necessity, it's only going to be somewhat general, but hopefully inspirational, and I'm hoping for an interactive session, so I'm hoping that you'll share with me along the way. It's not just me talking, because that's pretty boring, I know. It's like for me when I sit through sessions, and I know if I talk as a teacher, my students get bored fairly quickly. So please feel free to interject, add your bit. If you've got some expertise beyond me, I certainly would appreciate you sharing, and so please feel like you can participate fully. Okay, so as a start for me getting to know you, who here is sort of on the end of more towards the accomplished genealogist, someone who's been doing their family history for a while, yeah? And they have a pretty good family tree already, and details and knowledge of how to do the research and all the rest. Who's a complete beginner? Right, so we've got several of those too. Okay, that's all right.
What about in the middle?
You can see the challenges along the way of presenting this. So I'm going to try and present the basics of how you get going on Ancestry and stuff like that. I plead the indulgence of those who are more advanced, but hopefully give some ideas and stuff that are applicable to everyone wherever you are. Okay, so I'll keep going then. That's good. I've got a little bit of an idea about you. All right, here we go. Okay, so the brief on this session's been introducing ancestry.com.au as a potential workspace for putting together your family tree. One of the things I've done with my family history is to develop that. And so the next one is, why Ancestry? Well, there's a couple of quite good family history services online where you can develop a family tree and get information, and I think Ancestry's got some good things about it and some things that I'd like to see different, but that's what you do. I started with Ancestry, so I'm kind of, it's all there. I'm stuck with it now. But they do have, for Ancestry's sake, I'll say that they do have fairly good Australian records. They have birth, death and marriage records have improved over time. They have the electoral rolls, they've had prov records for shipping, which has been really helpful to me along the way. And they've had various other records. They've got cemetery records, and they've sometimes got newspaper records that can also be helpful. That's if you want to pay for a subscription. Now, one of the good things about Ancestry, and it's the same for some of the other services as well, I realise, is that you don't have to pay for a membership, and you don't have to pay ongoing fees to host a tree up on Ancestry.com. You can just make an account and then get started and create your own family tree. You only start paying if you want to access their records for research. So
there are a couple of records that you can get for free.
There are, probably. And from time to time they have a day where you can access military records, or you can access things like that. So occasionally you can get some things like that from them. When I first started, I was kind of concerned about some things about Ancestry. I was concerned about the way they extracted payment from me, and that might be something that people have experienced as well. Since then, I found it's kind of settled down a little bit. I've been on and off. I'm not on subscription to them at the moment. I'm not doing a period of research, so I'm not bothering with that. And Ancestry is only valuable as far as the records take you, and they don't take you very far, generally, okay? You can do some stuff. They're good with the census records if you're going back to the UK. They have all those and they're nicely presented, and you can go and see original document scans and things like that. They are not so good when it comes to parish records, although I think they're probably improving a little bit over time. Find My Past, I believe, is much better for parish records. They seem to have a larger collection. That was just my experience. But anyway, so it depends on what you're after, and it really depends. It is a good avenue for finding records and getting on. Doing limited periods of subscription on Ancestry has been helpful to me on occasions. So if I've felt I've had to research something, I will jump on there. There are other sites that are much more useful in terms of specialist areas. So if you go back to Scotland, you don't bother too much about Ancestry, you jump on Scotland's People, which is the government site, and it's got all the records. Scotland's People, yeah. Okay, so that's an example. Now, I don't know how many of you are in different boats, and I'm going to go through a little bit of where you go in and what directions research takes, but anyway, so...
Sorry, can I interrupt, Tom?
Yeah, please.
Ancestry, my understanding is you can get it free at the libraries.
Yes, you can
So
also
what's
research
your
at the libraries,
what
yeah.
is your internet? It's usually 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
So most libraries, or all libraries, you can Ancestry free.
Yeah, I know there's some really good resources at libraries, yes, so absolutely use libraries.
But you can't attach it to your tree then?
You can, I don't know whether you can save it. I was of the habit of actually getting the records up and saving them to my hard disk, and then I put them back up on the tree and stuff like that. That's something I was doing.
A good workaround.
A good workaround, yes. So, but you know, that's only if you want to see the records and whatever. If you're going to publish them, you've got copyright issues, so be aware of that. Okay, so yeah.
I'm just wondering what sort of figure you pay for Ancestry.
Okay.
Oh, I have Ancestry. It's $250 a year.
For
Okay.
what?
But
For which access?
Australian and English.
Yeah.
It's not America. It's not
No.
Canada. It's
Yeah,
Not
they've
South
got some
Africa.
packages.
Yeah.
They have Australia and UK, and you can get that for about $30 a month or something like that, I think.
There's also free ones as well.
There's lots of free ones as well, absolutely. There's a lot of boards. There's the Family Search, which is the Mormon one, okay, which is also
Totally free. Brilliant.
totally free and brilliant, yes. And in the past I used that a lot, and especially trying to track down records, because they used to have a situation where people could put up their family trees online, so you could sometimes mesh in with other people's family trees and download records from them, and that was often very helpful in finding stuff, especially because a lot of, if you're going back into the UK parish records, sometimes you can't get them on microfiche. You've got to write off to the UK and ask them to send you out a bunch of microfiche, and then you've got to have access to a microfiche reader, which is becoming increasingly rare as it's an obsolete technology.
They haven't been
that kind of thing.
digitalised yet.
And they're still in the process of
takes time.
digitising
It does
stuff.
take
Yeah,
time, I know those
And,
machines.
yeah. So the
Way
digital
back.
world is still
Catching
on lag, and will probably be a while before we get to see. There will always be records, more and more records coming digital, and that is good for genealogists who want to find out about information, because it means that you can go back online and then do another search and you'll be able to find more records. I found that myself. I did a little bit more on one of my lines and found that a lot of the London synagogue records were suddenly turned up online, and that enabled me to start researching that area, and I made real progress that my ancestors hadn't made because they hadn't gone to those records. So that was something that, an example of that, where more and more records come online and then you can find them. I think there's directions with that in Irish research too. Although the direct records are often, it's hard to get them, but as there's more broad records becoming available, you can then use those to kind of get around those obstacles and barriers and find out a little bit more information and get further back. So yeah, it's good. Okay, I will keep going. Okay, be aware of the risks and benefits of using these kinds of services. Number one question, who owns the information? Okay, who controls the information? Okay, so they're all issues that you have to think about. They do provide you with a great way to host your information, and that can be good because it means that there's less likelihood that it will get lost, like if your house burns down or you lose the family albums for a bushfire or anything like that. That kind of thing, it gives you a backup, and that's how I think of it, sort of as a backup for my records and research and what have you. So, but there are those concerns, and they need to be thought about as well. So, okay, how to think about family history? Why do it? What's your motivation? We all have different motivations. You could probably tell me some of yours. Does anyone want to share a little bit about their motivations for doing family history?
Curiosity about my great-grandparents and where they all came from. I've got some town names and things like Stirling and very good Scottish and Glasgow.
Sure, yeah.
But don't know anything about those people.
Yet.
Yes, yes, you will. You will find out, yes.
I've been to Stirling and I went to the castle.
Okay, yeah.
Who was my ancestor?
Yeah. I have a line of roses, and there was always the speculation the rose was related. They came from Suffolk, and there was always this speculation, did they go back to Scotland, or was there some other story about their origin? I haven't got back, they haven't answered that one yet. It looks, I mean, I've got theories about that as a genealogist, that they might be actually related to the Roos family, which is William the Conqueror and from France, and that kind of thing. That might be more of where it comes from, but I have yet to make the required connections to actually verify that one. So, you know, it's a case of wherever you're going with that, yeah. So we all have motivations. Some of us think it's going to end in writing a book. Some of us think it's going to, mine's kind of, I've not got that far yet. I want to, but I definitely haven't got that far yet. I'm skirting around doing a whole lot of little biographical bits at the moment. I'm interested in a particular ancestor of mine, my second great-grandfather, who was one of the original Bendigo Cohns, and trying to do all the stuff that never satisfied me about what Grandpa and those people did, because they had an issue with him because he committed suicide, and they didn't want that publicly known. And this is the kind of thing that will often happen. Now, my generation's distance from that, I'm actually interested in, how did that impact these people? How did it work in terms of what they went through and what have you? So, yeah, that's what happens, and then you've got the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Sanitisation of family history, and that's always an issue as well. So, okay, so we're all at different places on our family history journey. We all have our own motivations for doing it. Okay, so I mentioned writing books. Yeah, but it's definitely not, as far as I'm concerned, not limited to writing a book. We can be people who make the records for our family history because it's happening now. It's always something that's going on that we can, if there's family gatherings, things like that, we can be making records that will become someone else's family history. And that's always a good idea to keep in mind, I feel, because I've got interest in it, so there'll be someone there who wants to continue doing that kind of thing down the family line. So I know what kinds of records I would have liked, so I've helped create some along the way. We had a tradition in our family, I don't know whether this is a common tradition or not, of doing something like a 4 generations of Cohns or a 4 generations photo. Okay, so we've got a couple of these in our family. I noticed that people have done them. So before my grandpa passed away, I got together with Dad and my son and we did a photo shoot, and that was an example of that. We've got, I'll see if I can show you that quickly.
So you're making records now so that in 20 or 30 years' time, when some of the people aren't here anymore, you've got something.
That's right, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. And that's something I want to kind of throw out there, that we as interested family historians can be doing some of that as well, passing down, creating records, passing down records. And those are the kinds of things that have been, I've kind of conned onto that, that's a good idea, and so on. Family reunions. I've done an interesting family reunion. Usually our family reunions have been immediate family and just like mum and dad's cousins, that kind of thing, what have you. I decided to do a family reunion where I went back to our pioneer ancestor.
That's a lot of people.
And that's a lot of people.
Because you said great-grandfather was...
Yeah. So I went back to, this was on my mum's side, it was the Rose line I was just talking about before, but we didn't know where they'd really come from. We got them back to England, and we got them back to about the 1750s and that kind of thing, but through the parish records and all that. But so he was, his name was Frederick Rose. He came out to Australia, got married, like so many people did, and moved to northern Victoria and did some infrastructure stuff and what have you. Anyway, so I decided, all right, I'm going to do this Rose family reunion, and I'm going to contact the descendants of all his kids. So
a dozen?
There was 7 or 8, I believe. Yeah. And anyway, so we had some records for that, so I wasn't starting completely from scratch. But I did do some cold calling on parts of the more remote parts of the family that we hadn't seen for a while. The benefit of this was that we got together and we had a family reunion. I would like to show you a little bit of this. I'm not going to show you very much because it's not your family tree, but anyway, this is part of the footage from this family reunion I had in 2013. It's about 1910 from what I can tell. If I can get that off. Hang on. Nice photo of the 2 girls. Okay, hang on.
Yeah, we don't have any vision.
You don't have any vision yet. You will have, if I get rid of that. Okay. Ooh, there you go. Okay, now I can put it upwards. This is called technical magicianship.
Mm-hmm.
Is it this one? It's not that one. It's this one. Here we go. But there's a very nice younger photo of the 2 girls, which we had the
So you had quite a crowd.
Yeah, we were quite a crowd. When she died in So that far-flung part of the family actually had this collection of family photos with my pioneer ancestor, who's on the right, and his wife, who's on the left. And they were able to show us this. And they also had some other photos as well. So one of the family had her as a younger lady, and they had another photo which I was aware of. So there was actually a number of photos that we actually got from that event that I'd never known. They'd been lost from our side of the family. And then we were able to digitise them and share them around and they're up on a Facebook site for the Rose Family Reunion and things like that. So it was a nice way to share that information. And so we shared some information. We had a fairly good afternoon. The result of that was that we a couple of years later, one of the members of the group decided, well, I went to see the grave of Frederick Rose, who's the Rose ancestor, and it had a metal kind of outline around his grave, but there wasn't any plaque or headstone or anything like that. So we decided, okay, let's get together and put a plaque on the site. So we did that, and a couple of years later, I think it was about 2015, we did that. And that was really great. It was a really good thing to follow through on this, and it made an event where some of these things like photos got redistributed through the family and things like that, and meant that we've got some more photos and know a little bit more, which was a good idea. So I just present that in terms of that being an example. I'll go back. Okay, I'm going to go to the slideshow again and catch up where we were. Okay. I'm going to go in and out a couple of times, I think.
Oh, so
Did you answer the question about who owns the information?
No.
Okay.
That's right. Too much. There's a fair amount of research in that as well, I think. In terms of there's a lot of background things as well, like where was the information coming from, so who actually owns it, and a lot of those are things that you just have got to be sorted out.
Ancestry usually just has a license to.
Yeah, they will say, you give us the right to host this information on the site.
On Ancestry, even at the library, you can go and access the electoral rolls, and you're allowed to save them. So obviously they're not really fussed about that.
Yeah, well, you can go to the state library and make photos of the electoral rolls off the microfiche off the state library of Victoria.
Oh, it's just there on Ancestry.
Yeah, you can get them off Ancestry too.
But you used to be able to just walk into any electoral office and be able to look at the electoral rolls.
Yeah, but you can get copies of
No.
You can't do that now.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
No, I mean on here, on
Yeah,
Ancestry.
1980. Up to 1980 they've got.
Yeah.
You can get the electoral roll and you can get a copy that verifies that you're an ancestor.
Yeah.
So clearly Ancestry...
Or yourself. Have you looked up yourself in the electoral roll?
No, I haven't. I know who I am. But they obviously are not that fussed that you're allowed to download those electoral rolls and copy them to your
sure.
history.
I don't know what the situation
Isn't there
because
some rule
because
about
they're a public thing anyway.
Because it's a public document.
information?
is.
So, but I think that so long as you, it's like in any publication, so long as you reference that where you got it from, and that verifies that often covers the owner who owns it, because you're acknowledging the owner of this stuff.
Sure. And if there is a copyright issue, then you can follow up on it too. Copyright is a process. I know it's from music as well.
Put it in these and you're pretty safe.
Copyright is a process whereby if you infringe someone's copyright, they've got to contact you and got to say, we believe you've infringed our copyright, can you cease and desist? Yeah. And if you don't do that, then it becomes an issue. And it's really related to using copyright is about people's right to make money from creative works that they develop. So that's the issue with copyright. Intellectual property for the purposes of financial gain. So if there is financial gain involved, then it's more likely to be an important copyright issue rather than if you just want to make a copy of something for yourself.
Pretty safe.
Yeah. So I think that's. I hope that goes some way towards what the issues are there. Yeah. So family trees, descendants lists. The other thing I have to say about family trees is I'm using Ancestry, and I like doing descendants lists with an old version of Family Tree Maker, which actually allows you gives you ability to list all the descendants from a GEDCOM or GEDCOM file, and then produce it nicely and what have you. So I tend to do that. I think it's Family Tree Maker 16, which I fortunately don't have.
There's a new one out apparently for those that use
there's
it.
plenty of those. Yeah, there's the Ancestry of updated Family Tree Maker continuously, and they've probably got that same capability in the modern ones. I've just at the one that I was dealing with at the time didn't have as good a ability to make descendants lists, but you can, using their software, make family history books and all kinds of things, and they give you all these options for outlaying your genealogical information. So yeah.
Who are the people who do that DNA testing?
Well,
Is that...
a lot of them do DNA testing now.
Oh,
but
I
a lot of
wondered if it was connected in any way
You
or
can,
linked to
you
this.
can. Ancestry is one of the companies that do it.
Yeah. I was just curious to see if they would ever
Integrate.
interconnect.
Yeah.
They do.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's privacy issues and stuff with Ancestry DNA, and do you really want someone fishing around the internet and finding out your genealogical past and stuff like that in terms of insurance in the future? AKA, what is Minority Report? Is that the movie that investigated that issue? Yeah, so...
Can I just pull in one other thing in that? They have had a case over in the US where they've actually, by court order, got access to DNA information from Ancestry.
No,
to actually
not
charge
Ancestry.
someone.
That was from,
Yeah.
that was the Golden State Killer, and that was from the one that everyone can upload to. Family Tree DNA and one other company that doesn't actually do tests but will process results. They're the only two that will talk to the courts. All the others have said, no way are we letting anyone else access, including the courts, access our data.
But that's at the moment, you don't know what might.
Yes,
Yes.
there's always that
But
consideration.
you've always got the
that
chance, you can always
That's
go
right.
in and take your data off there again.
Yeah, but who knows? If it's out there, it's out there.
Out there.
So yeah. Anyway, so just be aware of that. That's all the wonderful concerns with our digital age and its pluses and minuses. Okay, so things to think about: own your own family tree. Don't rely on Auntie Doris's or whatever, because you know you're the one who wants to know the information generally. And if your family tree is helpful to other people, that's great. But researching it yourself is always a good idea. Yeah. Identify ways to pass your family history on. Having it on Ancestry is actually a good way to pass on your family history, as long as you pass on the passwords for your account so they can later on access it and such. So just keep that in mind too. We are not around forever and we don't choose the time of our departure. So having people who know and can carry that on is a good idea. Okay. Capturing the present and the past, you can do what I've done. The first thing I did was to interview my grandparents, aged as they were, and ask any questions I wanted to ask. So before people do go away, it's a good idea to have asked them all your questions. So think about your questions early on in your family history research. Is a good idea. My uncle passed away 2 or 3 years ago now. He was a medical doctor who lived in Ballarat, and there was a lot of things I wanted to know about my family history, so I did a series of interviews with him. After his passing, sanitised versions of those interviews were put up on YouTube, and his kids, who'd not had an amazing relationship with their dad, were able to go through those again as a kind of memorial to him, and that was kind of, they said to me that was really helpful to be able to do that, and to see him talking about my mum's family as she was growing up and so on, what they did and what happened. Research the other branches. My suspicion is that sometimes people's family histories one branch, and then because there's no other family historians around the place, they don't go and do the other lines. So I started off with the idea, no, I'm going to do everything. So, which was a bit
How
insane,
many
wasn't
years
it?
is that?
Oh, it is.
Yes. Okay. Anyway,
Never-ending.
I'll show you the result of that in a second.
Never-ending.
You get to see my family
Never-ending.
history. Yeah, and the answer is it's never ending. I mean, I found that as I've gone back, eventually I've hit barriers along the way through records and stuff like that. So some of them you can take back, and others you can't. So it depends. But and as far as I've been able to, little project, I'll do this line. Oh no, I'll take this line back. And some get ignored and some get favoured and things like that. But that's just life and its bits and pieces. So I've done the videos of family reunion with one of your pioneer ancestors as an idea. It's only an idea, you don't have to do that. And photos, audio and video records of family events. Something to think about, yes. All right, next. Okay, so you can of course make a book. It's made very much simpler by the publishing revolution, and creating your own ebook or e-document to record your family history is very accessible. So you can just send it to people whenever they ask, or whenever they're interested once you pay it. I suggest format-wise, you can do just Microsoft Word documents, but probably .pdf or Adobe Acrobat documents are probably the standard format for sharing information at the moment. I can't see that changing. Most publications, academic publications, Google Books, or when I digitised all the books, they did them into PDF format. So it's very, very common. So if you're going to publish a family history, I suggest you do it as a PDF document. Yeah, that's also because then it's not changeable like a Word document is, and so on. Okay, so that's my suggestion. There are some other good formats as well, but PDF is the one that I think you should be looking at. You don't have to worry about print runs and costs. When they did tablets of memory, they had to print, I think it was several thousand of these or something like that.
As a minimum
it was
number.
as a minimum number, and that was the best deal that they could get at the moment at the time. So nice book, but it cost them a fair bit, and they had to sell to people to recover costs and things like that. We can just publish our research if we want to without charging. If you do want to charge, that's up to you, and there's ways of doing that as well. Okay, we don't have to worry about that. It's now a DIY exercise. You can do it yourself on your home computer. Writing short outlines on individuals that you can combine into something bigger is also a way to go. That's what I think I'm doing. I've done various little outlines of different people in my family and have it in mind to kind of bring them together at some point.
Does Ancestry, you know when you create a profile for somebody, does it also have in Ancestry where you can put your notes about that person?
It does, yeah. They have notation and stuff. I'll show you some of that when I get to demonstrate my tree to everyone. I'll probably go through the presentation and I'll change out of it because otherwise I'll just be going backwards and forwards and have to click through all the slides all the time. Making videos, okay, it's another option in terms of dissemination. You have YouTube as well. I've done a couple of things with YouTube. I've done videos of my family reunions. You can see I've done little excerpts. I've got a tiny excerpt of my grandmother's voice. She died in 1998 before I'd actually thought about being interested in family history. So fortunately there was an audio tape that someone in the family had with a snippet of her voice, and that's all we've got. I put that in a YouTube clip and put it up on YouTube with a photo of her. So that's creating another little memento sort of thing, I guess. As an idea, videos are kind of nice, and you can do some things. I've done some videos of finding graves. When there was an ancestor in Ballarat, I wanted to locate the grave, so I made a video in case I ever want to find it again. I just go back through the video and I can find the plot where it was, or other people can find the plot where it was, because otherwise...
As in you walked from the front gate and you go up this far
Yeah.
and turn left and...
That kind of thing, yeah.
Yep.
It's not always easy to find these things, especially if they're not well marked or the grades are deteriorating. So that was another thing I've done. So they're examples of that kind of thing. Okay, even creating your own production, like your own Who Do You Think You Are, is not impossible and not beyond the realms of what is you are capable of doing. So
You could do that for someone's special birthday.
you could, that kind of thing, yeah, absolutely. Or as part of a presentation for a family reunion.
We did that for my mother's 80th birthday. This Is Your Life.
Yep.
We did that, the whole family and the rose and everything, and pictures and stories. And
Yeah, that kind of thing can be really good to memorialise something or whatever. My dad's 70th birthday, I got the clipping from Trove that announced his birth in the newspapers, and got some photos from my family history collection and put that all together into a nice frame and gave that to him. So it is useful to have these things around and can provide that kind of thing that's can then become something of sentimental value. I know he hangs it around at his house, so that's really good. Okay, and going on. Okay, I've talked about descendants lists, so I won't dwell on that. We've also covered, I think, copyright as much as I want to. There's some websites that I've got there that talk about copyright and issues with it in terms of family history, but I'm sure you can look up stuff like that too if you think it's going to be an issue for you. There's ethics and family history, just a little thing to keep in mind. Tell the truth as far as you are able to discern it and in a friendly and appropriate way. I talked about sanitisation of your family history. That's a very important idea for family historians. And exercise care with information that may defame, humiliate or cause hurt to others. That's always an important thing to keep in mind. Later on it might not be such an issue as with my second great-grandfather taking his own life. And I'm actually interested now to say, well, okay, he took his own life, what was the issue there? And have been able to find out some very interesting facts. I mean, I knew that reports that he was unhappy about his finances, so I know that was one of the issues. He also suffered from a really bad disease that would have been causing him a lot of pain at the time. And so I can see all these things kind of merging together and becoming this kind of, I don't want to continue with this kind of situation for him. So there is that kind of thing. But sometimes it's not the time to deal with issues, and we need to recognise that too. Okay, I've got reference facts where possible and avoid misrepresentations. So it's very important that we say what we've got and what we're sure about, and then what we're not so sure about, that we put that in the I think this or use reserved language in regard to it.
And you've got to be careful about how other people will view things. Like if you think that, Granny's dad wasn't Granny's dad, do you put it out there? Especially if there's still, like, some of his children are still alive, you might want to keep that private until that generation have gone.
Yeah, it's not the time principle, yeah, absolutely.
Especially if they're going to be upset by finding out that daddy wasn't daddy or whatever, you know.
Indeed.
There's some very interesting stories in America about those things.
Yep. Not just there.
No,
I've just found a second cousin who only recently found out that she belongs to our family because she doesn't belong to her father that brought her up. So emotionally, she's been going through a lot, and she's told me stuff, but I'm not passing it on to other people because, it's not yet time, because, she still needs time to work through all that.
Yeah, so we just need to be aware of those kinds of issues. Facts and references. I know that I got frustrated more than once when a piece of information was conveyed and there was absolutely no reference to where it came from. And this was a critical piece of information, and I wanted to know why didn't you reference this? Why didn't you? And I have to say that this one is a little short on references sometimes. So make sure that you put references where possible, and that's always
You forget
helpful.
where you got stuff. I mean, in 2 years' time, you're going to forget if you got it from here or there. Or
Yep. I've forgotten half the stuff I did in my family tree, and it really worries me. So, it was 2010 to 2015, I was strongly into that. Then I kind of have taken some sub-interests and kept them going, but you know, a lot of it's just there in the background. So yes, you need to try and keep on top of references if you're producing something, and will have a good record of them. Ancestry is good for that. Ancestry is good for keeping a record, and then you can go back and at least it provides a starting point for remembering all the stuff and where you're up to. Okay. We started to have a look at this, researching your family history, and on the chase, gathering the info you need to start. Usually that is consulting people, okay, before you get back into the records. That allows you to get back in the records in a lot of cases. I know that when I've done a number of other people's family histories, and I just needed that basic information to get me back into the records. So that's kind of what you need to be looking for to start with. Once you're in the records, you can pretty much sort things out fairly quickly. It's certainly easy to get back across the ditch in terms of if you've got pioneer ancestors who came out to Australia. It's certainly easy once you get back into the records. The early 20th century, there's good records up until around 1940 or so, and then you can kind of find out who people were if you've got access, especially to the digger records, which are very helpful, or the BDMs on the state different sites. So, excellent. Okay, yes, births, deaths and marriages, yeah, BDMs.
Acronyms.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, there's some genealogical acronyms along the way. So, BDMs is a really important one, births, deaths and
Now,
marriages.
All the military records have been digitized.
Yep.
And they're been accessible, I think, since last October. Or maybe it's this
First World War's
October.
all done. There's currently working on Second World War.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they'd finished. They said it'd be available in October, but maybe I didn't hear all of the message.
Yeah, well, they did all First World War records are done in Australia.
Okay.
Second World War they're working on. I don't know if they're quite finished because there was quite a lot of guys and girls involved. There's a lot of digitising to do.
There was also a situation where you could pay to have them
Prioritised.
do the records, and
Yeah.
I certainly did that with a couple of World War II records I needed to get hold of. So yeah, for one of my grandfather's, his war records and what have you, I wanted to get hold of those, so I paid for them to do them. They did them, yeah. They did them, and so I was able to access them earlier. But it's good to hear them being read through those. Yeah, that's good. That's an excellent family history resource. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so catch what you can while you can. We've done that and work out how to pass it on. Getting back across the ditch, finding ways to get information. Okay, so once you know that they came from England, you know they came from Ireland, you know they came from Scotland, they came from the United States, or wherever they came from, then you can start pursuing records in those areas. The US, I believe, has very good records for family history censuses and parish records and things like that.
They were more into it than Australia
They
was
probably
in the
were.
beginning.
Yeah, but
The Mormons, I think.
They're brilliant.
yeah.
Yes.
IGI.
The shipping records, I don't know a lot about the shipping records for the US, so yeah.
There's lots of other things. I think there's also some of the legislation that stops you getting places in different states.
Right, yeah, so there's some big hurdles there as well, probably, that I'm not aware of. So, but whichever way you're going, you can identify potential or likely sources. I've mentioned for Scotland around, that's on the next slide, so I won't preempt that. Use of the internet, you've got free and paid services, Ancestry, Find My Past, those kinds of things are good for mapping your family tree as you go. There's lots of other sites on the internet that have or can provide you with information on whatever specialised area you find yourself researching. So make use of those. Genealogical societies and services are available. Victoria has good genealogical societies and resources that you can go to, and they give you paid research options and options to do research with professional genealogists or people who are skilled in specific areas and have specialist knowledge.
And learning it yourself.
And
they'll teach you how to do it yourself
Yeah.
as well. You don't have to just pay for everything.
No, that's right, absolutely. I found, before I got into Scotland's people and worked out how to do it myself, I paid a genealogist to research an area where there was a barrier, because I just couldn't get over it. And that taught me lots too. When I got the research back, I said, oh, that's what he did. I was able to backwards engineer what he did and work out what his process was, and that actually gave me instruction so I could go into the Scottish records and start doing research.
What's it called again?
Scotland's People.
People.
Yeah, that's the government website, the Scottish government's website, and they have, they're trying to put all the records that they can on there. So
It's pretty cheap too, isn't it?
It's not too bad. You pay
Compared to
as you
Australia.
go records and stuff like that. It depends on how many records you want. You can't. It's limited to a per record, per payment type system. So it depends on how much you actually. You want to get.
Budget is.
You want to get as close to the what you think are the actual records that you need as possible before you start paying for them. Yes. Local history society is really good. I found along the way that I was able to get good information from local history societies, and especially if it's context-related information about what someone might have been doing. In regard to the ancestor who committed suicide I've been talking about, he tried to establish a brewery in Echuca. So I went to the Echuca Historical Society when we were there on a family holiday and kind of asked for some questions and things like that. So that's an area that I'm trying to work on at the moment. So research through libraries. We've already mentioned that libraries, like Frankston Library here, has a whole section of books on related to genealogy, and they're worth going through. There's a couple I want to loan out, a couple on identifying family photographs and periods and people and things like that.
And they've got the digger records on disc.
They do, yes. In terms of family history records, they have Ancestry online, they have the digger records on disc. There was an issue with accessing those because the computer systems, diggers, rather backwards.
It's old, and it doesn't like working on new computers.
Yes. And they upgraded all the Frankston Library's computers at the beginning of this year, so you might need to bring your own computer with pre-old computer.
But I find the digger records you can get basically on births, deaths and marriages now with the family history.
Yeah, a lot of it is, they're becoming redundant, thank goodness.
They're different in that the people who index the online Victorian BDMs are different to the people that many years ago produced the digger records. And I know, for example, for marriages, if you look up a marriage, it'll say John Smith and Mary Brown, and that's all you'll get from Vic BDM. But the digger records will say John Smith was from Birmingham and Mary Brown was from Ballarat.
So it got
You
more
get more
details.
different information, and also if it's bad handwriting, sometimes the second pair of eyes is fantastic.
You always hit those kinds of situations where someone's interpreted something incorrectly, like a surname or a name or something like that, or there's alternative spellings and all that kind of thing.
Human error.
Human error. You go back to the parish records, and this becomes a real issue with could the clergy member actually produce legible handwriting?
Could they spell?
Could they spell? Yeah, something like that. And a lot of the time you're guessing. I've got lots of examples of where I wasn't sure about a surname for a female member of a family that was going to take me back through a maternal line, and then discovered that it was something completely different, and that it was only through trying to decipher this piece of handwriting that was almost illegible. So that's an interesting one, yes. So skills, it's good to put a lot of brains together on that one sometimes, and you can often work out what's going on with that. And our Frankston family history people are very good at that, and they're able to.
They've got the diggers on the computer as well.
Yes, yeah. So it's all very good. Okay. So you've done identified potential or likely sources of information, and sometimes you have to think outside the square with that one too. If the direct line won't take you where you need to go, sometimes you've got to be thinking, okay, is there any contextual information that I can kind of go out and find local newspapers from the area, just general newspapers from the area, other documents, indentures, whether professional documents. There's a whole range of different things that often you've got to go to that because the information isn't there in your direct line of birth. Trove is an excellent resource, absolutely. I was going to show you some examples of Trove records where I found it fleshed out my family history.
Oh,
I found articles that tell me, so I want to show you some of those. I'll do that in a minute. Okay, so research through libraries, archives, and other records institutions. There's a whole range of them. Libraries, the State Library of Victoria, Frankston Library has good family history records, Parkdale Library has good family history records. And a lot of the municipal libraries have good collections. Regional Australia, if you get out there, because you've got ancestors who have come from country Victoria or went to country Victoria, historical societies, I mentioned Echuca, they've got very useful and helpful information. So broaden your horizons if you get stuck. It's a signal to broaden your horizons in terms of sources. Okay, I've Trove newspapers, there you go. I'm going to show you those.
Does everybody know what Trove is?
Yeah, does everyone know what Trove is?
No.
Okay, so the Australian National Library has digitised, or has been in the process of digitising newspapers, doing converting the pictures of the newspaper into text so that you can search it, and they're getting people to go through it as a big activity, and Frankston Library has a group that does that too. Goes through all the articles and stuff like that and just checks that the text is correct. So
They couldn't type back then.
I know, yeah, and some of the newspapers, the print was smudgy or bludgy or whatever. But anyway, so that is a really, really good source. I use it all the time for details where the records don't exist or have problems. When you need to find out information, you often get backstories from it, which I'll show you in a minute. And it's just incredibly useful to go to. You just type Trove into Google or whatever. Okay, you go to newspapers online, you just find that, and it has a search thing, and you've got all different kinds of things that you can search. Maybe I'll bring that up as well, just so that we can have.
And if they lived in the country, it's even better because country newspapers tell you everything.
They do, yeah, and that is certainly the case I've found. Yeah. Okay, so research of records. I mentioned some of the other things. National Archives of Australia. We've just talked about Trove, Public Record Office of Victoria. If you need to go and see records, they've got the shipping records, they've got
wills, inquests,
all that stuff, yeah. Wills, inquests, government records. Yeah, so that is certainly get to know PROV, Public Record Office of Victoria, PROV. Yeah. And take a visit there if you're wanting to do some research. They're good. State Library is pretty good too. They've got lots of records as well. And think creatively. There's more than one way to skin the rabbit, as I said. If you hit a barrier, it's just a signal to you to broaden your research. Speculation is okay as long as you clearly label it as such. I've discovered stuff by just speculating about things, and later on we found evidence that proved or disproved it. So that's it's not a bad thing to speculate, but say it is my speculation that, and then go from there. Learning the questions to ask. We've all got a bit to do in that regard. Often that's a way around roadblocks or problems, and there is more than one way to skin the rabbit. Okay, sharing and collaborating. I'll reference the Family History Club here again. I've been to some of their sessions. They're really good. You can ask questions, and friendly and helpful people will help try and answer them. So that's really good. So there we go. So we've mentioned all those genealogical societies, electoral rolls. Get what you can to get to the records. We've talked about England, the census records and wills back to 1841. That's the next step that you'll take if you've got English ancestors. You'll want to find where they were on the census records. They started in 1841, they went every 10 years thereafter. So 1851, 1861 and so on. Okay, so as I said, Ancestry has a really good collection of those, so you can, that's probably the best. I don't know if there's any better place to actually access them. They've been produced on CDs and stuff like that, but who wants to spend their time fishing CDs into a drive and what have you? So I think that
sometimes, like census records, you can get them on FreeSen and Ancestry and Find My Past, and sometimes one company will have a clearer picture of it than others, especially if...
Okay, yeah. I haven't struck that, but yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I did. Mm-hmm. Where one company had really bad quality, you jump to the other company and it's suddenly brilliant. You can actually read the thing.
Yeah, very good. Okay, then there's some other, I talked about broadening the search. There are parish registers, not all that are available on Ancestry and those other sites, that have ended up on archive.org as part of the Google Book Scan, okay, because they got published, and so that's a good place to check as well.
Would you say that one again?
Archive.org. Archive.org is basically got copies of all Google books. It's a big repository. It's a digital repository, which means it's just like a big digital library. And they've got all the Google books. You can upload stuff onto archive.org. I've got several things, publications. One of my master's thesis in education is up there, and all kinds of stuff. So you can actually put your stuff on archive.org, and they're a general internet repository. They also have something that's very useful sometimes, because you hit websites that don't exist anymore, links to websites that don't exist anymore, and they have a feature on their site called the Wayback Machine, which it means that you can basically go back and see previous versions of web pages on the internet, and that can be very useful sometimes. So, yeah.
Do you have any tips for my great grandfather was John Wilson?
Mm-hmm.
No other name.
Yeah.
His father was Joseph Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
No other name. How do you have any tips about knowing whether, when you go back further, whether they're actually related to those people?
You've got to put on your creative thinking hat, I think, which you've probably done, and
like who they were married to.
Or their
local
children,
records, geography,
situation. The first thing I would be doing is thinking, where were they living, and look for local knowledge, because I've got a situation where I don't know. Every time I look at people, I don't know what happened in that situation. I think if I only knew more of the local situation, is there a local newspaper I can get to, or something like that, or a local publication, or is there, what might they have been into? Were they Freemasons, or were they, might there be some kind of other records or things that might exist?
Back then, John and Joseph were like...
It's like John Smith, or,
So
obituary.
It goes back to my question. We've got John Smith, Joseph Wilson married Mary Carr.
Mm-hmm.
But then, if we're looking for Joseph Wilson, how do I know that what his parents are, if you want to go back further?
Yeah, and how do you know he's the right one to start with? Yeah, all right. So you've often got to jump back through records in terms of, this is where speculation can also be a tool I think you can use. Often I've just gone, okay, I don't know who this individual was from a bar of soap. What do the records tell me about all the individuals who had that name? Okay, and then you can do a process of deduction. Which one was most likely to be that person through date of birth? You can often eliminate 5 or 6 of them out of 10. Then you might get down to location. Where were they? I've had to do this a couple of times when I've been looking for information as well. And often I've made speculations that later been proved completely wrong. I should have been looking at another individual, but it can help you to kind of narrow the field down so you know what you're looking at and who the likely prospects are. So that,
and often on marriage certificates, their parents are listed.
if you're lucky enough to have a marriage certificate,
well, you have to send away for it.
Yeah, sure.
You can send away for them.
Yeah.
Through the genealogical society.
Yeah, and so you know sometimes you really are scraping around the edges. Mentioning archive.org, I've specially used that for Scottish ancestors. There's a bunch of Scottish publications that aren't available. I haven't seen them anywhere apart from archive.org, which are old Scottish news magazines, and they often have references to, they have birth, deaths and marriages sections in them, and that through searching those I've sometimes be able to at least find some information about some of my ancestors. Frustratingly, I've got Scottish ancestors and their marriage certificates are who knows. So it's very difficult then to say this person married such and such, and so that I can get back another generation.
Was there a time when they didn't do marriage certificates?
I think there was all kinds of situations. One's
before civil registration, you only had church records.
Yeah,
it was only church records.
Right.
And if they were a sailor and off at sea, and who knows where they were.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. Yeah, absolutely. You don't know if they got married in England. You don't know if they got married at sea. You don't know what happened.
Yeah, but it's still a bit iffy because I've actually got Joseph and Mary Carr's marriage certificate, which is signed by an ex.
Yeah.
But there's nothing
Illiterate,
else. It's just their details of their marriage that day.
And that's very hard to get back. So
were they of this parish? What were their occupations?
That was about one.
Were their fathers' names listed, and what about the father's occupations?
Yeah. I think at some stage, if you get in that situation, especially say England, you know that at a certain stage, you know, people didn't move around a lot before the Industrial Revolution, and so if you know all the people of that family name in the certain area, then that gives you somewhere to start. Again, it's a process of narrowing down and trying to eliminate possibilities and things like that. So
that can also lead you to further problems.
and it can absolutely yes
My
cans of worms.
The Prouts came from Cornwall,
Yep.
and they called them John, and they called the kids after that. So you would have John,
Son of John, son of John, son of John.
and John, and John would name his son after.
Good
that.
luck to you
So
unravelling that
you
one.
get to the stage, and they're all minors.
Yeah.
In the thing, so
Yep.
you get to the stage where you've got 30 John Prouts in the town that are all around the same age, that are all somehow related, but which one goes with what as well.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Sometimes the local group can help you there. You know, they might have a local Cornish group from that area that might help.
Yeah. So sometimes you can get unlucky in family history, and that's one example. Yeah, and then I think you just put on your patient's hat and leave family history alone for 5 years. And
Go to a different branch, and when you come back, there might be more records.
That's right. Yes, that's another example of what you can do. You can go to a different branch and restore your sanity. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So Irish records. I should talk a little bit about Irish records. I have a couple of lines of Irish ancestors. One I've just managed to get back to Ireland and no further than that. The other one we've got back a couple of generations because they were from a Catholic parish, and we actually got the Catholic parish records, and they were quite helpful. I'm sure we could probably get back further if we were really trying, but it can be awfully frustrating. You get back to Ireland and you think, oh wow, I know they're from there, and I know where they're from, but that's all. Yeah, so if you're in that boat, that's there are, as I said, the records are becoming better. More of these kinds of extracurricular side records are becoming available too. So, as I said, broaden your perspective on how to approach the problem. And often that's the only way you can actually advance family history is by looking at it from different angles and trying to sidestep these issues, which can be big problems, insurmountable, it seems sometimes. Okay, the United States I've mentioned, we've gone through those. Is there anyone else who wanted to ask any questions about areas of family history, records?
One more.
Yeah.
Up until 1958, there's a cut-off point that you can look for birth, deaths and marriages for marriages
It's in Melbourne or?
in Melbourne.
60 years.
You can do it in all the other states as well. We've got
Mhm.
a cut-off point. When it comes to daughters, is there a trick to find out who they married after that?
Did they die?
No, some have, but there's...
Because when a female dies, it'll say, what's the name of your parents and what's the name of your spouse? So if you can tie the parents and the spouse together, like Vic BDM, you can have in the other options, you can actually put the, father's surname and things like that to try and narrow it down.
I think I've spent hours in BDM doing all those kind of manipulations, but sometimes you get those roadblocks where you just can't find who
You're also
doing
assuming
that.
that everybody told the truth.
Yeah,
And they put down their...
Yeah, there was no murky undertakings
And they
going on.
didn't say that their name was Mary Smith when their name was really Mary Brown, because she was actually still married to Mr. Brown, and it was... You're assuming that everyone's telling the truth.
Yeah, no, there's one particular family, I can't crack anything into it. They won't respond, and they've got a couple of daughters. I wonder if I can find out who they got married, if there's any tips.
Are we talking about like living people, recent stuff?
Yeah, they're living people.
It's very hard. Privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your electoral roll, you can, I'll give you an example of something from my research. My wife's dad was adopted out, and he always thought that the story was that his mum came down from Sydney with her family, and they were in Melbourne for a short time, and they went up to Sydney and disappeared. So he was spending time up in cemeteries in Sydney looking for anyone with like name, the name that he knew he was adopted from after he got that information. I was able to go through the electoral rolls, find the family when they were in Melbourne, and then trace them right back, and through going to the electoral rolls, which you can look up in the electoral office or whatever, I was able to find out first of all the structure of the family, who the kids were, and we found out everything. We knew who they were. I contacted them, but I did ask. We found this information out. We know that he's related to your family. We now know where his mum lives, and so on. So we knew everything down to where they lived and who to contact. So I contacted one of his mother's sisters, and I said to her, look, this is the information we've discovered and so on. Is it okay to share it? Because obviously going directly to the mum, and there's all kinds of ethical problems and issues and whatever. And they said, no, we don't want it shared. And consequently, we've gone nowhere with that.
You might need to wait another generation or so.
So we know all about for the family. It's good. It's allowed me to fill out the family tree completely, but it does mean that that's that ethical side of things. So so yes,
You just have a brick wall, and you have to be patient.
Yeah. We'll probably never find. There's a line there we'll never find out about because we don't know who the dad was, basically, who my wife's dad's dad was. So we've just got to put up with that one. Yeah. Someone in the family might know.
Does she have a brother? Does your wife have a brother?
Yes, but his brother's from the same family and not from that line. It's my wife's dad who's the one who was adopted. So.
Yeah, but if he had a son who could do a Y test, that'll trace the male.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And it'll
there's all those kinds of different ways that you could actually get around that problem probably too. Yeah, that's a challenge. Yeah, not having direct information. Yeah. Okay, so So, finding out the facts, and then to descriptive narrative, who they were, where they lived, what they did, what they looked like, and what they were like. Okay, so they're all the things that we're trying to find out usually, one of those. For me, it was a case of, yeah, I'd like to have photos of all my second great grandparents, thank you very much. Most cases I succeeded, but some of them I didn't. And I would have thought that there were photos, since there was a photographer in that one of the family, and one was on the council in Adelaide, and so but pursued all those lines, and nope, came up blank. So unfortunately, I missed out. But I'll show you all the other photos that I got. Often in the war records, there are photos of individuals involved, so that can be helpful if you don't have those photos. Then you've got personal description and profiling, psychobiography and things like that. The case, like when I'm doing my second great grandfather who committed suicide, getting into what was going on there in terms of what was the cause of him taking that drastic step that then altered my grandfather's life and my great grandfather's life, and has had an impact going on. So it's finding out that kind of information as well. Here we go. Oh yes, photos. I'll quickly diverge onto photos. Okay, so there's fun things that you can do with photos. These are some photos from my family history. I went round and actually visited a lot of the places because I wanted to kind of get a feel for the area and they were living and stuff like that. And they're the nice family photos that are in people's family collections. You often find these kinds of photos that provide you historical context for buildings, and some of which still exist, as you can see. This one was a nice one. That was during the war. That was my grandmother's house. That's my grandmother in the front garden, and I went and visited that house, which is this one here. You can see from the top of a bit there if I get out of the way. Anyway, so I visited the nice lady there, and I said my grandparents lived in this house during the war. And she was very kind. They've put an addition on the front of the house, as you can see here. But otherwise, they've removed all the front veranda bit and put an addition on the house, but it is the same house. So I was able to relocate that one because no one could tell me where it was. So that's in Ivanhoe. This one's in Essendon, and
that's the after and the before.
This is the one I took in about 2011 or something like that, and that's the nice shot of my second great grandparents in front of the house, and you see they redid the roof with tiles at some point. There was a slate roof before that. There's my grandmother standing at the front gates. So it's kind of nice to be able to do those things too.
You don't even have to go there. The other day I was on
Google Maps, yeah.
And I got this from the electoral roll things, and I've got a photo of in my great-grandparents' house, and I emailed it to my mum and my sister, and I go, my mum and her sister, and I go, oh, do you remember this? And they're going, oh yes, well they've painted the awning or something. But yes,
very good. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, Google Maps, you can often go to these locations without actually going there and have
unless it's been pulled down.
Google. Yes, and well, sometimes Google Maps can show you things that have been pulled down since, but
only if it's recent.
Yes, that's only if it's recent.
Behind in there.
Yeah, and some of my other second great grandparents had a chemist shop just on the corner there, and that's them standing in front of the chemist shop, and that's a photo that was taken. That was in the 1970s that they took that one. It's not a recent one. I haven't actually been there recently, so I don't know if that building's still up there, but. And this is the furniture warehouse in North Melbourne. That's what it looked like in about 2012. And there's the nice historical photo of it that exists in the family. So there you go. That's an example of where you can do then and now type stuff with photos, family history photos. It's kind of fun to do. So I've talked about historical societies, Google Maps, exploring details. Sometimes you can just find stuff that will help give you context to finding out where your ancestors lived, and that can help put that picture in your head of what they were doing from what you know. So it's, for me, it's that kind of aspect of painting a picture of their lives inside your mind to give you that understanding of what they were doing, what their lives were like. In future we can put together virtual worlds or an environment, so you can actually, I mean, one of the things I've wanted to do is virtual street tour of Bendigo in the 1800s.
Cool.
Wouldn't that be great? You know, do the photos exist to be able to do that? And the answer is, well, yeah, there are some photos, so we can actually put together some of that.
Stitch it together.
Yeah, stitch it together and do a virtual landscape, and in VR, and for everyone know about virtual reality, you can get a headset, you can put it on, you can see what things look like and that kind of thing. That'd be nice. So yeah, the future's taking us there, but we're not quite there yet. There's shows like Back in Time for Dinner that explores kind of what they had, the technologies that were available to them, all that kind of thing, and that can give you some more context and understanding as well. So I've talked about Tablets of Memory, which is that family history. Short fact-based biographies, but for me that didn't do much to fill out the character and personalities of the people involved. That was that kind of family history. You can do that kind of family history, but for me it's more interesting to explore the people and situations and lives and things like that. So as I said, digital reconstruction is a possibility that's coming fast. We have the examples of things like Superman's hologram of his dad in the Superman stories and what have you. There's social media and other technologies mean that there's more information about people's lives out there for the future and for future generations, although a lot of it's going to be attrition as well, as digital records get trashed much faster than paper records. So we have, I've talked about preservation a little bit. Yeah, if you're going to be doing family photos, because sometimes digitization is a thing that we need to do for them to make that transition to the digital universe. Basic settings for the DPI, for preservation of photos. As if you're going to preserve a photo digitally, you need to have at least 600 DPI, at least 600 DPI. Preferably, a lot of my photos get scanned in at 1200 DPI, or double that. You can make 150 to 300 DPI versions for sharing online, but if you're going to do it for preservation, you have to go. They're the kind of standards I would be observing with the reproduction of photos. Usually scanners will do those kinds of resolutions these days, so hopefully you've got one. If you don't have one, scanners have become a lot cheaper. When I started doing this, they were vastly expensive, and I actually imported my scanner from the United States and have used it for document scanning and whatever, because it was fast and it did these kinds of resolutions quite well. It's an A3 scanner, so but those have become much more available. I picked up one on eBay for $200, which is basically the same as what I started out with, and so I've got this extra one in reserve if that one dies, sort of thing. So that was only $200 or so. Some of them have the format of SCSI is now obsolete, but some of the scanners use that format, and so you often need an interface card, and there's issues with Windows drivers for them and stuff like that, which is becoming a problem now, but up until now I've been able to deal with that. So I've got an Epson scanner, that's what I use for it. Yeah. So photos are good, they contain metadata, often that is invaluable. ages of people in photos is the first thing. If you have young kids in photos, that often gives away the exact year of the photo, because you can say this kid was 3 there, or this kid was 4 there, and that's only 1 or 2 years. So you can actually I've narrowed down a number of photos where I didn't know the details, but I knew who the people were in the photo, to a specific year, doing that kind of thing. There's often details in photos that will give that information away. So you can be able to do that is a really good skill to be able to do. I'm talking about family history as contextualisation and identity. So you're looking at the context, the environment in which people lived, and who they were and what they did. So if you think about family history in those terms, often that will give you scope to narrow down and find out information that you need. I've already covered that. Okay, putting together narrative, family history narrative, is an important thing to be able to do if you're wanting to write something. I'll cover that a little bit. So you've got biographic descriptions. I talked about the ones in here as just being facts related about where they lived and what they were doing. Meg was much more a creative type and investigated the kind of psychological side of the characters in family history as well, and speculated and did all that kind of stuff. So I've kind of put a part there somewhere. I like doing that as well, but she made some mistakes in doing so, and so I'm keen to avoid
When was
that.
Meg from?
Meg she's a Melbourne person, yeah. She was my grandmother's cousin.
Geelong?
Sorry?
Geelong?
No, I don't know that she lived in Geelong. That's all right, but yeah.
Many chaplains in Geelong.
Oh, okay, right, yeah, all right. But being able to describe your characters and then speculate about their motives and things like that, I think that's all allowable, good stuff in family history, as long as you label it as such, as long as you kind of provide clues that you're actually speculating about things. Because of that reason, I also introduce other fields which you might like to consider in your family history narrative. One is psychobiography. There's examples of where people have grabbed a famous person and said, oh, we want to understand this person's motives, and they've investigated them from a psychological perspective. I've got a bibliography of books on that at the end if you're interested. Just give me your email address and I'll forward, if you want today's slideshow or any details from it, just pass on your email address and I'll send you a copy. So just as I said, principle, just remember to label it for what it is and avoid misrepresentation. Family photos to life. I did want to spend a little bit of time on this. I don't know how we're going for time though.
Half an hour.
Half an hour to go, right. I will spend a little bit of time on this for those of you who might be into family history photos. So, of course, there's photo restoration, which is a whole area that you can actually do. I use a little program called Paint Shop Pro, which allows you to clone areas of the photo. So you take a little bit of this part of the photo, put it there and whatever. And if there's scratches on the photo, it allows you to get rid of those and actually clean it up. That's one useful thing that you can do. So you can use Photoshop or Adobe for that. There's also these possibility of doing colour versions of photos. I've been experimenting with this lately. This is good fun.
I've seen some really brilliant examples of what other people have done. I haven't tried it yet.
There's some nice examples online. I'll show you what I've been able to do so far. It's just been a little thing I've experimented with. You can do 3D face models, believe it or not, and make them talk. So this 3D talking heads thing from Futurama. so anyway, that's a fun thing to kind of play with as well. So the other one is making bots. Does anyone know what a bot is? The bot is a kind of virtual character that can talk to you online. There's some little programs that you can use it'll only, they are working on AI versions of bots that will actually come up with answers to your questions and things like that. There's when I was doing my library course, there was virtual librarians where they would, the bot would go and consult this and then come back and tell you information that you needed to know and whatever. That's taking off as there's plenty of online tools to do with bots online, but I've experimented a little bit with this old Windows program called Verbot and tried to recreate myself in this thing answering some family history questions. So where I went to school, what I did growing up, that kind of thing, to create this kind of virtual character, if you like, inside the computer who can answer questions if people talk to it and whatever. It's interactive and whatever. So just an idea. I'll throw that one out. Online colorizing tools. This one's really nice. Colorized photos does an automated colorization, so it will actually read the photo and use AI to try and work out what the original colours were, and then reproduce something and throw it at you. Not everyone's cup of tea.
It loses the, if you've got old photos, I think the authenticity of the photo.
Yeah, there is that issue, yeah.
Because so many old photos that you get, they're just so unique when you get them that tampering with colouring them, I think just takes away that.
Sure, everyone's going to have their own kind of ideas about it. For me, it kind of, I feel...
You're only, you're playing with a copy of it. You're not touching the original.
No, so this is the understanding. You are always keeping the original there. And so there is, of course, they understand the original. I'm just playing with them because I like it, the idea of bringing it to life and bringing it back. That kind of makes it more real to me, I guess. So it depends on what your motive is and what you want to do.
They've been doing that for, I've got Nan's wedding photo from 1936 was hand coloured, it was hand painted because the photo was actually black and white, and then they had used a whole massive group of people who would actually hand colour photos.
Yes, I know, but look, I've got great grandparents and great aunts and everything, and they're all in black and white, and I feel that I don't know, I think it's criminal to
you can keep
it depends on your motivation for doing it.
You don't have to do it.
To change it.
Yeah, I know. For me, it's just like, wow, this really brings it to life for me. It's just different ways of thinking about it in different people.
I remember when I was very small, the photographer used to use a cotton bud with some kind of colour on it to give my mother.
Oh, the highlight, the rosy cheeks. Yep.
Yeah.
So if you're looking up these kind of tools, just remember to use the American spelling for colorise, because they don't spell it the same as us, so you won't find anything unless you do that. I'll show you some examples that I've done recently. There you go. Those are the original photos. That's Frederick Rose, and I've coloured him. So that was...
he looks well.
He looks well there, doesn't he?
Was he from Dorset?
He was from Suffolk.
Suffolk.
Yeah, England. That's his wife there, Emma Bonnie. That's Emma in the other photo that we got from the family reunion. So that's the younger Emma, and that's the widow Emma. So yeah, and that's Emma's sister. So but I thought that some of that was the AI program, and then I had to redo bits that it didn't do very well. But I like those. I looked at it, I thought, wow, I'm actually very happy with that. As the idea of bringing it to life.
having both together is good.
Yeah. So that's, I throw that in your direction. I like doing it. It'll be part of, if I write up some family histories, I'll be using colour versions, because I just like that idea of seeing them in colour like that.
So those, the backgrounds were
they're from the photo studios.
Yes.
Yeah, they're from the photo studios. So
right.
they're from the original backgrounds. And I've just guessed at the colours. There's nothing in there that's authentic, and neither is it claimed to be. Even in terms of the clothes, you could presume that those are fairly accurate widows' dresses, something like that at least. And here, yes, you can presume that's the kind of thing. Darker skirts. I've done the belt a little bit. I've done their hair. I really haven't done a lot more, much around that as little as possible. But yeah, you can see that that's the kind of thing. Nice to be able to do that kind of thing, though. And I'm not a professional photographer. I'm not a professional graphic designer or professional person with any of that. So just to show you that, I might give you a bit of a look at doing that live if you want a little bit later. And you can even do 3D photos of ancestors. I'll show you that video clip in a little bit. Oops, back. Okay, and there are stereoscopic images from the 19th century. I'm lucky enough that one of my forebears was a photographer, and he experimented with stereoscopic photography and actually produced some photos of his wedding and such that were done with stereoscopic photography.
What's that mean?
Means that there's a left and right picture.
Oh, it's a 2D.
And you can actually restore the photo to a 3D version.
Yeah.
And look at it, if you've got a 3D TV, you can put the images together and see it in 3D. Yeah. But I'm an aficionado. I love 3D movies and stuff like that. So it's all part of my thing. It's not for everyone. There's a 3D wiggle image gallery that you can have a look at, and that's kind of fun to have a look at too. I'm just presenting ideas and possibilities as I go. I've talked about 3D heads, talking heads, chatbots, ancestor avatars and virtual reality environments. There's also things like if you wanted to hear what your ancestor sounded like in future, you can create things that are, text-to-speech voices. You know what they are. Things like where the computer will read to you and whatever. And in the past it sounded quite robotic and whatever, and then gradually becoming not so much robotic.
Yes, I've noticed some things that's a lot.
Yeah, so Siri, for example, you heard Siri speak and whatever. So examples of text-to-speech voices where you can type something and get Siri to say it to you.
Or your GPS in the car.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
some of the early ones were really
text-to-speech as well. Yeah. Okay. So there's one to look up later on YouTube is livebird.ai, where they're actually using an AI to recreate people's voices. So you could actually create a electronic replica of your voice, so that.
Do they do accents?
Yes, that's what's
Because
starting to come in.
Depending on where you're from, the accent might be totally different.
Absolutely, yeah. So anyway, there's some scary clips on YouTube about cloning people's voices and making digital representations of them. So.
Oh, that could go bad, couldn't it?
It's a bit creepy.
Yes, yeah. Well, that video, go and watch that video and see how it goes. He talks to his mum using the AI voice, not his own on the phone. So anyway, have a look at that one for your entertainment. There's Second Life. Have you heard about Second Life?
No.
Is it still around?
Yes, it's still there. Yeah, absolutely. It's a virtual world, if you like, which you can jump on in virtual reality and walk around and go through places and whatever. So if you've never tried on a VR headset, I don't know. But I was talking in January when I was actually doing my placement for my library course here at Frankston Library. I was talking with Scott, who's one of the librarians, about possibilities for doing VR demonstrations and things like that. If you ever get a chance to do one, it's good fun. I've just mucked around a little bit with VR so far, but it's certainly a very interesting technology for the future. Not just for games too. I'm not interested really for games, but that's its main application at this stage. People being in virtual reality situations. Okay, so they're examples. I was just throwing that out there for directions for things you can do with family history if you want to in the future. I've talked about preservation. I just want to talk about different ways of backing things up. We used to have floppy disks and big 5¼ inch floppy disks and 3½ inch floppy disks and things like that.
I was there when it started.
Yes, all those horrible things that we went through in our technological education. These days we have solid state drives and things like that. In the future, what's going to happen with that? You need to ask yourself how your collection of digital information is going to be passed on and what formats it's going to be in. Is it going to be upgradable? Hopefully it's a lot easier to pass them on in digital format rather than having boxes and boxes and files and things like that, which has been the experience of what people were doing previously. Meg had a couple of filing cabinets full of files with all the...
Yeah, but paper's still paper.
Research, yeah.
You know, whereas a VHS, you know, if you don't update it to the modern technology, who's got a VHS player anymore? Not many people.
Yeah. The other principle with digital information, of course, is back it up, for heaven's sake. The number one golden rule for preservation of your family history records, the digital ones, is back it up in multiple locations, preferably on different continents with different people.
Give a copy to a family member.
Yes, something like that. I'm lucky all my siblings went overseas, so I've got one in Amsterdam and one in Canada and things like that. So if I want to pass it on, I can send them a hard disk for Christmas or something like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, and solid state drives, I don't know how long they're going to last, but they're a lot more reliable so far, I've found, than the magnetic drives, which if the disks slipped, they were corrupted. That was gigabytes of information lost. There's the cloud that's coming. There's records on YouTube. You're creating a digital legacy there. Make sure you pass it on.
Assuming that YouTube survives in the future.
That's right, yeah. And
same with Ancestry. Like, you've got your records in Ancestry.
That's right.
Back it up, because if Ancestry's not there in 10 years' time,
you'll lose it all. That's right. These are backup solutions. They're not the main repository for your information.
Yes.
They're not the main repository for your information.
Whereas paper is.
Yeah. So back it up, get Family Tree Maker or whatever, and download your own copy of it. Yeah, so you have your own work. Yes, and back it up. Send it to 15 different continents on different hard disks. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go, and hopefully the apocalypse won't happen. Yeah. Okay, so that's digital legacy, passing on your family history. Backups, dissemination and proliferation. That's the only way information has ever survived in any civilization.
Yes.
Remember the destruction of that poor old library at Alexandria in Egypt. All the records that were disseminated survived, and the ones that weren't perished in Alexandria. So you need to, that's from my library course, the principles of passing on information. Back up every 3 years onto new media is a good principle to follow. And file formats, I've talked about PDF and such already. Video format, they're just changing too regularly for there to be one particular one. MP4 is a fairly good one at the moment, but who knows. I've used dissemination. Digitisation has allowed us to disseminate family history records very easily. If one person has a family heirloom, they can make a photographic record of it, and everyone can have that. So it's great. What's useful? Working with Ancestry, good place to build a digital family tree. They all have strengths and weaknesses.
Excuse me.
Yep.
It's nearly 4 to 3. Are you going to show us some of your...
Yeah, I'll do that now. Yep, I'll move to that now. I'm just about there anyway. So I was just going to plug the Family History Club at the Frankston Library, do some question time, but we can probably see how much time we've got for that. I'm happy to stay around afterwards if anyone wants to do that. I've got then a list of references, some YouTube videos and things on physical description of people, psychological description, references on psychobiography, trait, personality emulation, developing character profiles for people, and that is it. Thank you for your attention. Now I'll show you my family tree on Ancestry and just some little bits and pieces in reference to that. There we go. Right, so there's me. Parents, grandparents, I've tended to show them in the prime of their lives. That's just me. You can show them whichever way you want.
Might be restricted by what's available.
Great-grandparents, you can see I've got photos of them, which is nice. And second great-grandparents. This one I've recently done colorisation of, this photo. The others are pending, but I've got photos of them, which is kind of nice. And they're the ones I haven't got, which is a bit of a shame, but never mind, you can't have everything.
So are you researching all those people?
Yeah, I have done research on those people. Sometimes I'm trying to get back further. Sometimes I'm focusing on specific people at the moment. As I said, Julius is getting some attention because I'm interested in understanding more about his life. That's the life story there. That's the gallery.
So you enter all this information yourself?
That's self-produced. Ancestry produces a life story automatically. I've just put in facts.
Why did he die so young?
Because he suicided.
Oh, that man. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so he was born in Horsensdorf. It then tells you all the other stuff. I have added these things. It's kind of nice. Remember we were talking about local newspapers and their stories. These are from Trove. Let's see if I can get that one up. No, it's good. Not that. Is it going to allow me to do that? Oh, man, it's just jumped out. Try that again. Oh, this is what I was going to show you, wasn't it? Okay, so things like this. Irish Ancestors. That's a Trove article. I've just taken a screenshot, clipped it up, and pasted it into Ancestry. So Mrs. Stired Rutherford Clark and 4 children and 2 young women, one of which was my Irish ancestor and her sister, were having to help this family out. She became Mr. E and da-da-da-da-da. And that's how they got to Adelaide. They were out with this family. That was something I didn't know before I saw this article. They were serving in that family. And then met some nice young gentlemen in Adelaide and got married.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So, I've had a little bit of information given to me by somebody else to say that there are other people in your family who can also put up a tree.
Yep.
Does Ancestry cross-reference that, or do you?
Yeah, you'll get notifications that there are bits of information in other people's trees. Yes, absolutely. And one of the other good features of Ancestry One here is that referencing other people's trees. If you're subscribing to Ancestry, you can reference or see all the people who might have that person in their tree, and then you can copy across the details quite quickly. So it means you can catch up on other people's research quite quickly through doing that. And that's actually quite useful in this daily too. However, again, the onus is on you to check the information, because sometimes there's speculative stuff on my tree. If you get out to the fringes of it, there's speculative stuff that I've said speculate this is the case, but there's not enough proof to actually.
But someone might copy that tree and just sort of
not
say
check the
this is
information.
definitely John Smith from Ballarat, and not John Smith from Bendigo. And
yep. And that's right. Yeah.
So you've got to take everything with a grain of salt.
You do have to take it with a grain of salt if you're going back. I'll just show you. This is John Harper Reid, the one I don't have the photo for. Now, got back to Scotland. He's a Scottish person. Thomas Reid, his dad was a sailor who died not too old. And we've been able to find out a little bit about, I think, the Thomas Reid is pure speculation for his dad. We don't know that one for sure at all. And that's all speculation as well. That's not, we know that. This is the guy I commissioned to do the Scottish research. He nicely found out that information is all correct. And we quickly got back to, particularly this character, Thomas Seaton. Now there is a Scottish family, I'll name it Seaton, that has that refers to the goes back to Robert the Bruce. So when we struck that one, we thought, oh, okay, this is interesting. And some people that had actually in Ancestry had actually copied him and linked him up nicely to the Seaton line that goes all the way back to Robert the Bruce. So unfortunately, that's not the case.
But some people have their trees back to Adam and Eve as
yes,
well.
I know. So,
Yes.
so you need to just be a little bit careful.
So you've got to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. So that was all right. I think it was pretty good that we got back that far. That's back to early 1700s.
That's 1700.
Yeah, so that was good with that one. Thomas Reid is a bit of an enigma still. Sailor records. Nowhere to be found. Missing in action. Yeah, I don't even know exactly how he died. We know he did die, but not how.
Having been born in that year,
I'm hoping
he died.
I'm hoping shipping records will become available and eventually reveal that, but we're not there yet.
Do you know the ship?
No, don't know anything really. Then there's other ones. They're the Irish people, courtesy of the Irish. There was really this was a nice, interesting story. I was going to show you this one quickly. So I'll go into Daniel. I'll go into Daniel because of his. He came out. Well, I didn't know how he came out until I read this, or why they came out. And then Trove filled in the details for me. I'll let you read this one. Okay.
So because of his wife, you found out about him?
Because of his daughter, actually.
Oh, it was his daughter.
Yeah, have a read of that. This was in the Argus.
Oh, the Argus.
Melancholy case of death during childbirth. It's Margaret Flannery, aged about 30 years, who had not only supported herself by needlework, but also saved enough to pay for the passage to the colony of 7 other members of her family. So isn't that nice information?
Yeah, and she was only 30.
Yeah.
And she'd still managed to save up enough to
And
bring 7
she
family members up.
actually worked herself to the bone to get her family out of Ireland and over here. What do you think might have been the basis of that? What might have caused that?
Was that the famine?
The potato famine?
Probably.
The drought.
Probably either financial circumstances in Ireland were just so dire at that stage.
1873.
When was the famine?
Don't know.
Farm was slightly before that, but they probably wouldn't have recovered.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
It would have been pretty hard.
Disastrous.
Anyway, she was living in the middle of Latrobe Street and about a month ago told her younger sister that she expected to give birth to a child. That circumstance secret from the rest of the family, and they did not suspect anything on Sunday night. She went to bed complaining of a headache. Nothing was observed during the night, but yesterday morning, no one was found dead in bed with a newly born infant also dead by his side. This shows that she died immediately after giving birth to the child, because they bleed out in those days if the birth went wrong, that kind of thing. So, anyway, sad story, but yeah, you find out things like that. Often family history is full of sad stories, so yeah, there's some happy ones too.
But newspapers are great for that.
They are.
Oh, and they
backstory, example of a backstory, yeah. So that's really, really good. Okay, this is this site where you can colorise photos. I'll just quickly go to that. This is colorisedphoto.com. You go launch web app. There you go, you get this page, you go open. I've got some examples of some of my family history photos there. I can go down to there's Julius, there's another photo of him. Okay, so then you've got, you just kind of do that over the top. And if you're careful, just stay within the lines of colouring in.
Back into the lines again.
Yeah, you've got to learn to colour in.
Now, this one, yeah, you've got to learn to colour in, that's right. That's a prerequisite skill for this. Now, for this side, you can. The good thing about this is you can actually, if it lets me, why am I not seeing everything up here? It's the size, but then, oh, there it is. Okay, I can go to this folder where I have a bunch of other colorized photographs. I'd usually choose something from the period or another thing that might be useful, say it's one like this. Okay, and I can grab a bit of this, so I want his skin colour or whatever. I can go up here and I can paste that skin colour onto his face. So it's that kind of thing. Now I'm trying to find a nice bit. It's not doing a very good job there. Let's see what else I can find. Or if you want a bit of his tie, grab that and kind of put it over the other thing. Okay, and you can colorise the photos that way online using that online app. It's kind of great. This one is the automatic one. I'll put the same photo in. Upload. Desktop.